It has been 30 minutes since Martin and Diane said they needed to use the restroom. 30 minutes is a long time to powder your nose. I looked around the restaurant again, scanning the entrance, the hallway near the back, the little bar area with the soft amber lighting. Every time a couple walked through the front door, my heart did a small, hopeful jump. Every time it wasn't them, I smoothed my napkin back over my lap and sat up a little straighter. Good thing I wore my best dress tonight, navy blue with small white flowers near the collar. Tommy picked it out years ago at a little boutique we stumbled into on our anniversary trip. "You look like the ocean," he said, and I laughed and told him that was a strange thing to say to a woman. But he meant it kindly. He always meant everything kindly. The last time I sat in a restaurant like this was when Tommy took me out to dinner. A real dinner. Cloth napkins, candles, a waiter who refilled your water without being asked. 4 months before his heart attack. 9 years ago now. Sometimes it feels like yesterday. Sometimes it feels like another lifetime entirely. I still reach for his hand in my sleep. The remains of the evening were spread across the white tablecloth. 3 sets of plates. Diane's barely touched because she had spent most of dinner talking about a new handbag she wanted. Martin's completely clean because my son has always eaten like someone might take the plate away. My own, half finished. I hadn't had much of an appetite. We'd had an argument last night. Martin wanted the house. Not asked. Wanted. The way you want something that already belongs to you, that you're simply waiting for the other person to stop being inconvenient about. "Mom, just sign it over. What do you need a whole house for at your age?" And Diane, sitting at my kitchen table with her long nails wrapped around my coffee mug, the one with the little bluebirds Tommy gave me our first Christmas, said that perhaps it would be better for everyone if I considered a nursing home. More people my age. More activities. She smiled when she said it. Diane always smiles when she says the cruelest things. I didn't say anything. I've learned to say very little around Diane. Every word I give her is a word she can twist and bring back to Martin, and Martin will believe her over me every time now. That has been true for about 3 years, since the gambling money came in and everything changed. But this morning they knocked on my door and asked if I'd like to join them for dinner. "A nice place," Martin said. His treat. I said yes before he even finished the sentence. Maybe I was foolish. But he's still my son. And I still love him the way only a mother can love a child who has disappointed her, completely, helplessly against all better judgment. So I put on my navy dress and told myself this was their way of apologizing. People find it hard to say sorry directly. Sometimes they say it with a dinner reservation instead. I should have known better. "Excuse me, ma'am." The young server appeared at my elbow. Sweet-faced, hair pinned back neatly, she set the leather check holder on the table gently, the way you set something down when you feel sorry about it. "Ma'am, I'm sorry to bother you." "My son went to the restroom," I told her. "He's been gone about 30 minutes. He'll be right back." She looked at me for a moment. Something moved across her face, a flicker of discomfort like she had been dreading this exact conversation. "Ma'am," she said softly, "your party left. About 20 minutes ago, through the side entrance." I heard the words. I understood them. And yet I sat very still for a moment, the way you sit when your body needs a little extra time to absorb something your mind already knows is true. "I see," I said. My voice came out steadier than I expected. I reached for my purse. Small, black, the clasp a little worn. I opened it and looked inside. My coin wallet, my senior bus pass, a folded prayer card I've carried for years, my phone, and $43. "I'll be paying for the meal," I told her, "but I'm afraid I don't have enough. They took my Social Security this month, for payments, they said." The girl looked like she might cry. I almost wanted to comfort her. A taller man appeared, older, silver-haired, the kind of man who has worked in fine dining long enough that nothing surprises him anymore. The maitre d'. He introduced himself as Philippe and pulled out the chair across from me and sat down, which I thought was a very human thing to do. He didn't loom. He sat. "Ma'am," he said, "is there someone we can call for you?" "My other son," I said. "Alan. Would you like me to call him? Or—" He paused carefully. "We can also contact the police. What was done to you tonight?" "No," I said, quickly. "Please don't do that. It will cause problems for Martin, please." Philippe looked at me for a long moment. "You're protecting him," he said quietly, not unkindly. I folded my hands in my lap. "He's my son," I said. "He'll always be my son." Philippe brought me a glass of water while I found Alan's number. It rang twice. "Mom," just that one word, and something in my chest cracked open a little. The way he said it, present, immediate, like I had his full attention before he even knew why I was calling. "Alan," I said, and then I stopped because I had promised myself I would not cry, not here. Not in this restaurant with the white tablecloths and the sweet-faced server pretending not to watch me from across the room. "Mom, what's wrong? Where are you?" I read him the name of the restaurant from the little card on the table, twice because I wasn't sure I was pronouncing it right. "Don't move," he said. "We're coming right now, Rosie and I both." "You don't have to bring Rosie." "Mom," gentle, final, "don't move." He hung up. I set the phone down and looked at my hands. They were trembling slightly. I pressed them flat against my lap and tipped my chin up the way my mother used to tell me when you don't want the tears to fall. Philippe reappeared with a small plate of bread. "On the house," he said simply. I took a piece and said thank you and sat and waited and thought about Tommy, about how he would have reacted tonight. Tommy Daniels was not a violent man, but he had a stillness that could fill a room when he was angry, a quiet that was louder than shouting. He would have found Martin, not to scream, not to make a scene, just to look at him. "I wish you were here," I thought. "I wish you could see what's become of our boy." They arrived in 34 minutes. When the front door opened and I saw Alan's face scanning the room, and Rosie right beside him with her coat half-buttoned like she'd thrown it on in a hurry, something loosened in my shoulders that I hadn't realized I'd been holding tight. Alan reached me first. He crouched beside my chair so we were eye level. He has always done that since he was a little boy, always getting low so people didn't have to strain up at him, and put his hand over mine. "Hi, Mom," he said. "Hi, sweetheart," I said. Rosie sat beside me and took my other hand, steady brown eyes looking at me with the particular warmth of someone who showed up and meant it. "You called us," she said. "That's exactly right. That's all you ever have to do." I had to look at the ceiling again. Philippe presented the check to Alan with quiet gravity. Alan took it, looked at it once, $1,200, and handed over his card without a word, without a flinch. That's my son. On the way to the car, Rosie kept her hand lightly at my back. She helped me into the back seat and tucked her cardigan around my lap because the night air had turned cool, and I thought, not for the first time, how lucky Alan was to have found this woman. We pulled out of the parking lot, and then Alan called Martin. I watched the back of my son's neck as he drove. The way his jaw tightened when Martin picked up, voice easy on the other end, unbothered, the way a man sounds when he's digesting a good meal somewhere comfortable. "What have you done?" Not a question. Each word placed carefully. "Why did you leave Mom alone in that restaurant? You couldn't call me? You couldn't say, 'Alan, we can't do this tonight, come get her'? You left her there, Martin. She had no way home. She didn't have enough money to cover what you ordered." I heard Martin's voice on the other end, but not the words. The tone, though, defensive, slippery. "I just paid $1,200, Alan said, "for a dinner I wasn't at, for food you ordered, for a table you walked away from." A pause. "Mom begged the restaurant not to call the police because she didn't want to ruin your life. Think about that tonight, Martin. Think hard." He ended the call. The highway stretched ahead of us, dark and long. Rosie reached back and found my hand in the dark and held it. I leaned my head against the cool glass of the window and closed my eyes. Martin, I thought. My firstborn. The baby I held and thought, oh, so this is what I was put on this earth for. "What happened to you, Martin?" I had been lying to my son for almost 4 years. Not big lies, just the small, quiet lies of a mother who doesn't want to be a burden. "How are you, Mom?" "I'm fine, sweetheart. Martin and Diane take good care of me. Every time Alan visited, I made sure the house looked lived in happily. I would bake something so the kitchen smelled warm. I would wear a nice blouse. I would smile the way I used to smile when Tommy was alive. Alan would look at me with those careful eyes, Tommy's eyes, that same quiet watchfulness, and I could tell sometimes he almost asked something more. But I would hand him a slice of something and redirect the conversation, and he would let me. I should have told him sooner. It was Rosie who asked. We were in their living room after Alan made tea, and Rosie brought a blanket even though I told her I wasn't cold. She sat across from me and said, very gently, "Mom, tell us what's been going on. The real version." And I told them. Martin and Diane had moved in 4 years ago. At first I thought it would be good, having family around, not being alone in that big house. Then Martin won a significant amount of money gambling, and everything shifted. I don't know the exact number, but it was enough to change how they dressed, how they talked, how they carried themselves. And I assumed, foolishly perhaps, that with all that money they wouldn't need mine anymore. I was wrong. Martin still took every cent I had. Whether out of greed or habit, I couldn't say. Maybe the gambling money was disappearing faster than it came in. Diane had expensive taste, and Martin never knew how to say no to her. Either way, my Social Security and Alan's money still vanished into their hands every month. He would always say it's for household expenses, but Alan pays for the bills. What changed wasn't their appetite for money. What changed was their appetite for something bigger. The house. When I refused to sign anything over to them, that's when things got worse. Diane's voice sharpened. She told Martin I smelled like an old woman. She said he needed to either send me to a home or dump me on Alan. Those were her words. Dump me on you. Every time I tried to defend myself, she would go to Martin, and Martin would come to me later, calm and reasonable, telling me I needed to be more considerate of Diane's feelings, that it was her home too. His father built that house. I raised my children in that house. But yes, it was Diane's home. And the money, Rosie said carefully. Alan's been sending you money every month. Did you receive it? Martin said he was managing it for me, I said, paying the bills. Mom, Alan said, I've been sending you $1,500 a month since Dad died. 9 years. Did you ever see any of it? I thought about the $43 in my purse. When they moved in, no, I said. After that, no. Alan stood up and walked to the window. I watched his shoulders and thought about Tommy, that particular stillness that means the anger is real and being carefully contained. 4 years, he said quietly. $1,500 a month. That's $72,000, Mom. Nobody said anything. Why didn't you tell me? Because every time you visited and asked how I was, you looked so relieved when I said fine, I said. I didn't want to take that away from you. He turned around with an expression I hadn't seen since he was a boy. Raw and young and hurting. I kept asking you to come stay with us, he said. Martin wouldn't allow it, I said. He was keeping you there because of the money, Alan said. Not a question. I nodded once. Rosie looked at Alan the way married people look at each other when a decision is being made without words. Then she looked at me. You're not going back, she said. You're staying here. Alan put Martin on speaker. Why did you let your wife speak to our mother that way? He said. What has Mom been? She told me everything. 4 years she protected you from this conversation. A pause. I've been sending Mom $1,500 a month since Dad died. $72,000 since you moved in. Did she see any of it, Martin? Silence. There are expenses, Alan. She had $43 in her purse tonight, Alan said, at a $1,200 dinner you ordered and walked away from. Martin said nothing. She's staying with us now. Don't call her asking for anything. He hung up. Rosie took my hand. Are you okay? She asked. I'm just tired, I said, and I meant it in more ways than one. But I didn't say that part out loud. Not yet. I have never been good at accepting kindness. Tommy used to tease me about it. Aurelia, just say thank you. You don't have to earn everything. Rosie led me down the hall that first night and opened the last door on the right. This is your room, she said. Not the guest room, not where you'll be staying. Your room, a queen bed in white and pale yellow linens, a cushioned chair by the window. A private bathroom with a nightlight already plugged into the wall near the floor. She had thought about me getting up in the dark. On the nightstand, my blood pressure medication already counted out for morning. And in a small glass, 3 stems of yellow flowers. Yellow was my favorite color. I had mentioned it once, months ago, in passing. Tommy always brought me yellow flowers. She had remembered. How long have you been preparing this room? I asked. She smiled. A while. Alan kept asking you to come. I wanted to be ready. I had to look at the ceiling for a moment. Life with Alan and Rosie was the quietest kind of happiness. I would wake up and make my way to the kitchen before either of them was up. Coffee ready by the time Rosie appeared. She would put her hand to her heart and say, "Mom, you didn't have to," and I would say I wanted to. And we would have that same small exchange every morning, like a little ritual we invented together. Alan would eat whatever I made with the unguarded appreciation of a man who grew up loving his mother's cooking. He never failed to say so. Every single morning. In the afternoons, I would sit in my chair by the garden window and simply be, without anyone needing me to be smaller, without footsteps I was bracing for. The quiet here was different from the quiet I had kept for 4 years. That had been the quiet of someone making themselves invisible. This was the quiet of someone at rest. I was happy. A few days later, there were things I needed from the house. My photo albums. Tommy's watch from the nightstand drawer, the one he wore every day for 30 years, still ticking, still keeping time for a man who no longer needed it. The small wooden jewelry box my mother had given me. And one other thing. The most important thing, I had not told Alan about it yet. I had learned something in 4 years of living with Martin and Diane. Don't announce your intentions to people who will work against them. Just act. Quietly. Decisively. You show your whole hand before the cards are even dealt, Tommy used to say. Not this time. Alan drove. Rosie sat in the passenger seat with her jaw set in the particular way she had when she was prepared for something. Martin answered the door before we knocked. Hands in his pockets, carefully calibrated expression. Not guilty, not apologetic, just ready. "Mom, you didn't have to bring," he said, glancing past me at Alan and Rosie. "I'm here for my things," I said pleasantly. "I won't be long." I walked past him into the house. Diane was in the living room. Dressed well as always, the gambling money having unlocked a version of herself she had apparently always been waiting to become. She looked up from her phone with elaborate surprise. "Aurelia," she said, "we didn't know you were coming." "Now you do," I said and kept walking. My bedroom was exactly as I had left it. Small, cold, dim. The heater still broken. 2 blankets piled on the chair where I had left them. Tommy's photograph on the nightstand. I picked it up first, then the jewelry box, the photo albums. His watch from the drawer still ticking. Rosie quietly folded my clothes into the bag she had brought, handling each worn piece without comment. The way you handle something that tells a story you weren't supposed to see. I went to the closet. On the shelf above, behind the spare blanket, pushed to the back, the envelope. The deed to this house. Tommy's house, in both our names. And because I was still here and he was not, it was mine alone now. Mine to do with as I chose. I tucked it into my handbag. Closed the clasp. There, I thought. Done. We came out of the hallway and Martin and Diane were both in the living room now. And that smirk, the one Diane wore when she thought she had won something. She looked at my bag, my photo albums, me in my rose cardigan, and arranged her face into something warm and sorrowful like a costume she kept near the door. "Oh, Aurelia," she said, standing, "I'm going to miss you so much. The house is going to feel so different without you." The room was quiet for exactly 1 second. "Sure, Diane," Rosie said flatly. Diane's expression flickered. "Excuse me," she said. "I said sure." Rosie set the bag down by the front door and turned to face her fully. "You'll miss her. The woman you told smelled like an old woman. The woman you screamed at in her own kitchen. The woman you pushed your husband to put in a home so you could have her house." She paused. "Sure, you'll miss her terribly." "I don't know what she's been telling you," Diane started. "She didn't tell us anything," Rosie said. "For 4 years, she told us everything was fine. She protected you for 4 years, Diane?" She tilted her head slightly. "And before you say another word, I work in HR. I deal with difficult people for a living. You do not want to have this conversation with me." Diane closed her mouth. Martin stared at his shoes. I looked at my firstborn son standing in his father's living room and felt the familiar tangle. Love and grief and disappointment wound so tightly together, I couldn't have separated them if I tried. "Goodbye, Martin," I said. He looked up. Something real moved across his face just for a moment. "Mom," he said. "Take care of yourself," I said, and I walked out the front door. In the car, I let out a breath I felt like I had been holding for 4 years. "You okay?" Rosie asked, turning to look at me. "Yes," I said, and I was. Alan started the car. "Home?" he said. "Actually," I said, "I need you to take me somewhere first." I opened my handbag and looked at the envelope. Then I closed it. "George Samuels," I said. "His office on Birchwood. I called 2 days ago. They're expecting me." "Mom, who is George Samuels?" Alan asked. "My lawyer," I said. "You can wait outside. I won't be long." They exchanged a look in the front seat. "Okay, Mom," Alan said quietly. "Okay." George Samuels had been Tommy's lawyer first. He stood when I came in and shook my hand with both of his. "Aurelia," he said warmly, "I only wish the circumstances were different." "They are what they are," I said, and sat down. I signed the deed transfer first. The house on Delwood Street transferred to Alan James Daniels and Rosie Mae Daniels. George would handle the filing and recording with the county. A few weeks, and it would be done, legal and irreversible. Then we updated the will. Everything to Alan and Rosie. A provision ensuring no challenge from Martin could alter or delay it. "Are you sure, Aurelia?" George asked, looking at me over his glasses. "All of it?" I thought about $43 in my purse, a broken heater, 2 sweaters, a smirk. "I'm sure," I said. He nodded slowly. "Tommy would be proud of you," he said quietly. I had to look at the ceiling for a moment. "He always said I showed my hand too early," I said. "Not this time," George smiled. "Not this time." Alan and Rosie were on the bench outside. They both stood when I came through the door. I sat between them and took a breath. "I've taken care of something," I said. "George is handling the filing. It will be done in a few weeks." "What do you mean?" Alan asked carefully. "What filing?" "The house, Alan," I said. "I've signed it over to you and Rosie. George will call when it's all recorded and official." He stared at me. "Mom," he said, "you didn't have to." "I wanted to," I said firmly. "It's your father's house. It should go to someone who loved him." Rosie pressed her fingers to her mouth for a moment, saying nothing. "Don't argue with me," I said. "Both of you. It's done." Alan looked straight ahead at the parking lot and the afternoon light and the ordinary world going about its business around us. He held whatever he was feeling with both hands for a long, quiet moment. Then he put his arm around me and pulled me close and rested his cheek against the top of my head. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. 2 months later, it was a Tuesday morning when my body finally said enough. I swung my legs over the side of the bed and stood up, and then I was on the floor. I don't remember the falling part. One moment standing, the next the floor against my cheek and Tommy's photograph looking at me from the nightstand and the pain finally completely winning. "Mom?" Rosie's voice from the hall. The door flew open. "Mom," she said, dropping beside me. "I'm all right," I said. The most absurd thing I had ever said in my life. "Alan!" she called, her hands on my face. "Don't move, Mom. I've got you." At the hospital, a nurse mentioned Dr. Simmons to Alan, said she had been treating me. "For what?" Alan said. "What has she been treating her for?" The nurse looked at him, then at me. I closed my eyes. Dr. Simmons came and explained everything to Alan and Rosie. The ovarian cancer, the stage, the fact that I had declined treatment from the very beginning. "Why?" Alan asked, looking at me. "Because I didn't want to spend whatever time I had left being sick from trying not to be sick," I said. "I made my choice, Alan. It was mine to make." He took my hand and held it and didn't argue. Rosie cried quietly, then composed herself and took my other hand, and the 3 of us sat together for a while. "How long?" Alan asked Dr. Simmons. "Months," she said carefully. "Then we make them good months," Rosie said, not asking, deciding. I looked at this woman my son had chosen and thought, "You already have." Alan called Martin that evening, brief and factual. "Mom is sick," he said. "Ovarian cancer. I thought you should know." He hung up shortly after. I lay in bed wondering if the news would crack something open in Martin, whether the boy I remembered was still somewhere in there. That Saturday morning when I heard the car in the driveway and watched Martin step out with Diane right behind him, handbag over her arm, sunglasses on, I already knew. They hadn't come for me. They came on a Saturday morning. Rosie appeared in my doorway. "Mom," she said quietly, "they're here." "I know," I said. "It's all right. It was not entirely all right, but I was ready." Alan met them at the door. I came into the living room and sat in my chair by the window and folded my hands in my lap and waited. Martin looked at me the way he always did when he wanted something and was deciding how to ask for it. Mom, he said, we came to take you home. I am home, I said. Your home, Diane said smoothly. Your own house, your own things. My things are here, I said. Rosie and I brought them. Martin sat across from me and leaned forward. Mom, listen, he said. Whatever Alan has been telling you, you belong with family. I am with family, I said. Come back home, Diane added. Martin, I said quietly, I'm not going back. He shifted in his seat, the gentle approach folding up, something harder underneath. Fine, he said. Then at least sign the house over to me, Mom. Just the house. That's all I'm asking. I looked at him calmly. No, I said. Alan will have the house. I have already started the transfer. Martin stood up. I took you in, Mom, he said, his voice rising. I let you live with us, I provided for you, and this is how you repay me? I looked at my son. Martin, I said, you came to ask me if you and your wife could live with me, in my house that your father built. I paused. Please set your story straight. He blinked. I took you. You came to me. You asked me for help, I said again. Simply, clearly. I remember the day. I remember what you said. I remember Diane standing in my kitchen telling me it would be good for all of us. I folded my hands in my lap. You did not take me in, Martin. I opened my door to you. He had no answer for that. And while we are setting stories straight, I continued, why did you abandon me in that restaurant? You took me to a place that cost $1,200 knowing I had no money. You took my Social Security 3 days before. You took the money Alan has been sending me every month. I looked at him steadily. Where did it all go, Martin? I paid the house bills, he said. Everything costs money, Mom. The utilities, Alan pays the bills, I said. He has been paying them since your father died, every month without fail. I tilted my head slightly. So what exactly did you pay for? Silence. He won't even tell me the reason why he abandoned me in that restaurant. And it is all recorded, Alan said quietly from across the room. Martin turned to look at his brother. Every conversation in this house, Alan said evenly. I have expensive security cameras installed everywhere. Every room, every entrance, every hallway. Everything said here today, recorded. He paused. And if you want to take this to court, go ahead, sue me. I will have the restaurant's security camera footage subpoenaed too, so the judge will know exactly what time you walked out, which exit you used, and how long your mother sat alone at that table with $43 in her purse. Another pause. Go ahead, Martin, I'm ready. The threat drained out of Martin slowly and completely. Then Diane opened her mouth and said something cruel. I won't repeat exactly what it was. Small and sharp and aimed precisely at the parts of a person most likely to break. About my age, about my usefulness, about what kind of mother chooses one son over another. She had always known how to find the tender places. Rosie straightened up from the doorway. Wow, Diane, she said quietly. The audacity. One step forward. Remember you're in my house, she said. I can punch your pretty face right here and tell the cops you tried to hurt Mom. She smiled pleasantly. Go ahead, give me a reason. Diane went very still. Try me, Rosie said. Nobody moved. Alan looked at his brother and something in him reached its limit. Stop it, he said. All of you. He looked at Martin. Mom is dying. The words landed in the room like something dropped from a great height. Martin's face went slack. I know she's sick, but she's dying, Martin, Alan said. She declined treatment. She has been carrying this alone for months because that is who she is, and you came here today knowing she is sick, and your first concern is the house. Something moved across Martin's face. Something real. The boy still in there somewhere, surfacing just briefly. Mom, he said softly. I know, I said. He looked at the floor, then back up at me. The deed isn't recorded yet, he said. You can still change your mind, Mom, right? I looked at my firstborn son, and I laughed, not bitterly, not cruelly, just the pure startled laugh of a woman who has finally completely seen things as they are. After everything, I said when the laugh had passed. No, Martin, Alan gets the house. He started to speak. Look at your wife, I said, quietly, evenly. No anger in it, just a mother pointing at the truth and letting it stand on its own. Look at how she just spoke to me, and look at how you have spoken to me today. I paused. You came here knowing I am dying, and the first thing out of your mouth was the house. I let that sit. That, I said, is exactly why. Martin had no answer. There wasn't one. I love you, I said. I will always love you. You are still my son, and nothing will ever change that. I looked at him carefully. But I cannot keep protecting you from consequences. I don't have time left for that. A pause. You will learn to provide for yourself, Martin. You are capable of it. I have to believe that. His eyes were bright and wet. He looked away. Diane stood perfectly still. The silence of a woman who has realized the game is over. You should go, Rosie said. Not unkindly. Just finally. Martin looked at me one last time. Can I come see you? He asked. Wherever you end up, can I still come? Yes, I said. When you're ready, come alone. He nodded, jaw tight, eyes full, looking more like the son I remembered than he had in years. He and Diane left without another word. The front door closed. The house was quiet again. Rosie sat on the arm of my chair and put her hand on my shoulder. I put my hand over hers. Alan sat across from us, and we stayed like that for a while. The three of us in the quiet living room with the garden light coming through the window and the birds at the little feeder outside and the ordinary beautiful world going on around us. You okay, Mom? Alan asked softly. I thought about it honestly. Yes, I said. I think I finally am. Months later, the pain had changed in character. Deeper, more constant, less willing to be breathed through and managed. I was sleeping more, eating less. The mornings at the kitchen stove were behind me now, and I mourned them quietly. The coffee, the garden light, Alan saying, Mom, this is delicious every single morning without fail. The hospice facility was called Magnolia House. Dr. Simmons had mentioned it months ago, and I had filed the name away in the careful, quiet place where I kept the things I was not ready to look at directly. But now it was time. I asked Rosie to sit with me one afternoon. I want to talk about Magnolia House, I said. She had been expecting it. We'll visit every day, she said firmly before I could even finish. Every day is too much, I said. Every day, she said again with that smile that could cut glass and somehow hold you together at the same time. Don't argue with me. I laughed, full and real and unguarded. You're very bossy, I told her. I learned from HR, she said. We laughed together in the afternoon light, and it was one of the best moments I had in years. The morning we left, the garden was full of light. I stood at the window one last time. The bistro table, the 2 chairs, the birds at the little feeder, Tommy's photograph in my hands, his watch on my wrist. Rosie appeared in the doorway. Ready? She said. I looked around the room one last time, the pale yellow linens, the cushioned chair, the small glass on the dresser. Fresh yellow flowers in it, even today, even knowing I was leaving. That was Rosie. Yes, I said. I'm ready. Alan drove, of course, Alan. Outside the window, the world moved past in the golden light of a morning that doesn't know it's significant. Ordinary people going about their ordinary lives, which struck me as beautiful in a way it might not have before. Rosie reached back and found my hand. I thought about Tommy, about You Look Like the Ocean, about 37 years of reaching for each other in the dark, about a plot beside his grave that had been waiting patiently for 9 years, about yellow flowers, about a son who never once failed to say, Mom, this is delicious, not once, not ever. I had lived a long life. I had loved deeply. I had been hurt deeply, and now I closed my eyes. Tommy's watch steady against my pulse, Rosie's hand in mine, the sun warm on my face, and now I'm ready to go to sleep forever. And that was Aurelia's story, a woman who stayed silent for too long, and when she finally spoke, said everything that needed to be said. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. I read every single one. This is Melodic Vengeance. Until next time, take care.
If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and drop a comment below. Don't forget to follow for more content just like this. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.